Hold on, I'm gonna grab my camera. Film myself giving a talk. I guess first I'll introduce the camera just in case anybody's curious. This is a camera that we've built, or I shouldn't say we, my CTO built. I use it and I kind of understand it. I call it a GoPro Frankenstein. Took a bunch of GoPros, cut them apart, added 220 fisheye lenses at the top, rewired them so they're all synced together. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Action. Cool, so thank you everybody. My name's Nikk. I'm Canadian, but I'm here today to speak to you about China. To begin, I just want to see if we got any Chinese in the audience. I think I see a couple. Nancy. Oh yeah, you too. Okay, small message for them first. 非常感谢你们，这次我有这个机会，我真的很 proud 拿来讲我们的故事。也最早只是你们的故事，但是我10年前来的中国，你们对我像个中国通，我也不是个中国通，但是人都对我就像你们的人，所以我也非常感谢我能参入，然后能和你们一起，非常感谢你们。也要说一个，如果我说什么错了，说什么信息不对，请举个手，然后说 Stop, Nick, you're wrong， 然后我会再改变了，非常感谢。I just said thank you guys so much to the Chinese in the audience for welcoming me, I guess, into China. I've been there for over 10 years, and Chinese people treat me like one of them, and it's really been a blessing. And I just ended with, if I make any mistakes, if I say anything wrong, please interrupt me and correct me. So yeah, thank you guys. And just to begin with this, I don't have a lot of stats. There aren't a lot of stats. I tried to use some. They're not that trustworthy, so take it with a pinch of grain. Mainly, I'm going off of experiences, my personal experiences, as well as other people in the industry who've shared them with me. Start off, who am I? I'm a Kenyan-born Canadian. I've been in China for over 10 years. I speak a bit of Mandarin. I've been in VR in China for 5 years. I'm the co-founder of one of the first VR communities in China, which was later bought by Facebook. I've worked with Razer, Unity, Gigabyte, and many more in China, and now I have my own production studio with 25 people. Starting about VR in China, I want to begin with the history. In the olden days, I wasn't there. I've only been in China for 10 years, and I've been in VR for 5 years, so I asked 2 friends to help me out. First one is Professor Wang, teacher at the Dianzi University. And here is also kind of a little bit of a profile about who in China has been in VR for a while. He said he started in '92 as a post-grad. He went to Germany where he studied VR, and he's been back since 2002 in the industry. And it's actually interesting how I met this guy. We were doing a project for the government, and in China, any government project has to go through like a lot of tests just to make sure that it's actually a real product and that you're not just kind of cashing in on friendship with somebody. And for these tests, they'll find a bunch of 专家怎么说? Expert. Okay. Oh my God. Forgot the English word. That's weird. They call in a bunch of experts who will ask you a bunch of questions to make sure that your project is actually a real project. And this was one of the guys. Very cool to see somebody who's been in VR for that long. Second person, I don't know, does anybody here know who this guy is? Yeah, okay, yeah, this guy I think is a little bit of a star at IVRPA. I heard he was very disappointed he couldn't come this year. He's one of the first panoramic film photographers in China. He started a website that was a community where, I think in the very beginning, the only community where people could go and learn about panoramic photography. And the last one, I just added this to my PowerPoint like 2 minutes ago. I just got a message. His patent has come through for some new technology, a nodal point finder. It's part of rotating gear for automobile interior capturing. Excited to see what that will be. And yeah, so discussing with them, this is kind of the idea and basically what I got about how things have been and what's been going on in China in the past 30 or 40 years. VR has been around for 50 years. 50 years ago in China, there was not in any state where VR could exist. Computers really weren't there, and that, yeah. So VR began basically in China in the 80s, though it started very slowly. In the 90s, it was mainly still people doing big projections and kind of working on stereoscopic video, as well as doing the kind of dome rooms or square rooms. Professor Wong said he got his first headset in 2002. In the 90s, I guess we know about the kind of boom and bust that happened in the West. That didn't happen in China. They were just kind of getting online with the internet, and for something like the VR arcades of the 90s that cost $100,000, just China wasn't in a place economically or socially to accept that. Since then, I guess in the past years, VR has been used in China, though it's primarily been in education as well as in the military. But this all changed when Oculus showed up. Can I ask, I don't really understand how that means. Oh, it's 24 minutes left, yeah? Okay, bottom is the second counter. Okay, just want to make sure. So now, I said it changed when Oculus showed up. That's also when I showed up, so I'm going to switch back to first-person narrative. I'm going to pause my video. Okay, so early 2013, I was in China. I was working on a video game startup, working on a mobile game. I saw a DK1 video on YouTube by Cinematic Bruce, just an old VR evangelist. The first video I saw, I was in awe. This is amazing. I need to get in. I looked around. Nobody else. I couldn't find a kind of VR-focused community that was doing these things with games and new VR. So I founded a website, Oculus China. And since then, I've been deep in the industry. So now, about what happened in China. 2013, DK1 came out. I started my website. Nobody cared. I had maybe 10 or 20 users to begin with, a bunch of nerds, and no women. It says male-dominated. There were no girls. I still remember the first girl who joined our community. Nobody believed it. It was in our chat group. They were like, "You're not a girl. Girls don't like VR." But that's not true. But at the time, it was true. There was no business at the time. We were all just hobbyists. And the Chinese HMD maker, Ant VR, was the first actually kind of bigger business to get involved. 2014, things began to change. Start of 2014 in Unite in Beijing, there was almost nobody there, just Oculus demoing the DK2 and Ant VR. But soon after that, Facebook bought Oculus for $2 billion, and that changed everything. As I hear the ka-ching sound that every Chinese person in business heard very, very clearly. That summer, Oculus suspended sales to China because of resellers that were just buying out all of their stock, and they said developers weren't being able to get them. And also, oh yeah, the servers switched to Facebook once they got bought out by Facebook, and in case people don't know, Facebook's blocked in China. So at that time, you couldn't buy an Oculus, you couldn't install it, you couldn't use it. It was very complicated. You need a VPN and a reseller. DK2s, like secondhand DK2s, were going for over $1,000 US. Like, it was really crazy. And then in the fall, Oculus open sourced the DK1. All of these things combined to make an industry that was really, really interested in VR, but that didn't have the major big player. So this left a vacuum in the industry, which really, really quickly, a lot of Chinese companies came in to fill, and the open source DK1 made it extremely, extremely easy. So again, Unite Beijing, only 1 year had gone by. It went from around 2 booths to around half of the booths having VR. And a pretty big conference, maybe 100 booths. It was everywhere. 3 Glasses, Deepoon, a bunch of new companies joined. There's arcades joining. Storm, they made a Windows media player kind of thing. Back in the day, they created like a plastic cardboard kind of shell for your phone. And that, like, they call it cooking stocks. Their stocks went from something like 3 RMB to over 60 RMB. Like a huge jump. Everybody was like hot on VR. At that time, an investor I knew, he told me, in the investor circles that he's a part of, if you don't have a VR investment, you're out. Like, you're not cool. So it was just a thing, like, everybody's putting money into it. Everybody's making quick money as your investment all of a sudden is growing. Pop goes the bubble. So yeah, that did not stay. That was just a really short-lived gold rush. The industry doesn't need thousands of DK1 clones. There was, some stats were ridiculous, like hundreds of Chinese companies that were basically doing the same thing, and there was no market for it. You can see here in the bottom there, Storm Magic Mirror, that's the one I just mentioned, whose stocks jumped. They reduced their employees from 500 to 300, and actually at that time they contacted me to hire me, and I asked, like, what are you looking for? And they were like, oh, before this, so I should say the year before when everything was hot. and they said, it doesn't matter. Just come join our team, just do something about VR, and it'll be awesome. So it was just a complete lack of knowledge of the industry and lack of knowledge of the technology, combined with greed, just inflated everything to a reality that was far from the reality we live in. Everything crashed, investors got lost, and they lost their money. The guy who I talked about before, who said everybody he knows has a VR investment, he lost money. Everybody knew lost money on VR investments. And then you can imagine to be in that situation and try and get money from an investor when him and everyone he knows has lost money on VR. But it wasn't all bad. At the bottom of the crash, people started to survive. It really kind of made it a tough market where really if you didn't have great core technology or something really serious to offer, you were going bankrupt. So the only ones who didn't go bankrupt really had great stuff. PMax, they did awesome on Kickstarter with their 8K headset, and Pico released a 6-DoF headset, which is also cool. If anybody wants to try it, I have one in my bag. Industry heavyweight FXG was founded. Anybody hear of FXG? Okay, that's my company. It was a joke. We're not a heavyweight yet, but it's happening. So here, I don't know if you guys know this graph. I think it's got a name for it. Merner's graph, Moners, anybody know? No, okay. But it just talks about kind of the adoption of new technology and when the hype, kind of that's the peak of inflated expectations. That was 2015 in China. The market crashed and it hit the trough of delusionment where nobody wanted involved in VR. And then now in 2018, we're back slowly going up. And here, yeah, to leave a couple good examples, U2 VR, VEER, Kandao, Insta360, of course FXG, are companies that now are really doing well, they're growing, and it's a healthy, stable growth. It's not the wild, crazy growth of before. Just a little bit of stats about investment, $275 million in 2017. 2018 is also looking to be good for investment. Fingers crossed on this one, because I need investment. Here, if anybody's curious, just kind of market shares about different headsets. HTC is the leader. Pico is the second one, a Chinese company. UGP. I don't know what UGP is. DP is Dapeng VR. Baofeng Mojing is Storm, the one we heard about before that had a huge rise, but now they've kind of gone back to the bottom. Now I want to talk about the future of VR in China. I believe that China is going to be the #1 VR market in the future. And why? First reason, China, as we all know, is on a wild growth rate. It's becoming the #1 market for almost everything. This year, they're on track to pass Canada and the States as the #1 film market. So it's yeah, everything is booming. But specifically, I think VR is especially booming. First thing I want to talk about is government support. These are really small, but also at the end, yeah, I have my email. If anybody sends me an email, I can send all these stats to people. But there's huge government support. You can see in here just a bunch of different lists of different things. State council, general office, all these things are just really, really high-level government meetings and initiatives and different kind of papers. And they have a bunch of different things here, like creating smart camps, which are all these kind of incubator zones, of offering financial support, of doing encouraging an education of new technology, especially with a focus on VR and AR. So there's huge government support from the very top. Even when Xi Jinping came to America last year, he went to Microsoft and tried the HoloLens. It's very, very, they really care about it. That's a skinnier me on the left. And Hangzhou Party Secretary, Zhou Yide, he was demoing my content at an expo. Later, as a Hangzhou Party Secretary, maybe doesn't mean anything to most people, but that's like a really big position, like mayor of New York or something. He came and visited me, as well as the premier of the province that I live in, and many other government officials actually came to my office specifically to come by and see everything and kind of offer their support. But more than just kind of words, what they've actually done that really is making serious change in the industry is incubators, accelerators, and industrial parks. I don't think that was a tongue twister, but I struggled. First one I want to talk about is Dreamtown. Why do I want to talk about Dreamtown? One, I'm a person who has a lot of dreams. Second, this is where I currently am based. It's a really beautiful place. These pictures are not photoshopped. It's really amazing. All kind of traditional, old-style Chinese buildings. It's not high-rises. Really, really comfortable. And there are a lot of favorable conditions. The incubator that I'm in inside of Dreamtown, they give me a 1% bonus on any investment I get. So if somebody gives me $100, they'll just give me an extra $1 to kind of add to that, which is cool. Almost every month, they arrange interviews with me. I've been on all kinds of Chinese media, internet, TV, print, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, my office. So I have 300 square meters. It's really nice. If you can see, it's got high roofs and nice brick walls. For 300 square meters, I pay about $13.50 US, which I don't know where everybody else is based, but for me, that's a really good deal. Another reason why China has a good chance at a bright VR future is just the speed of progress in China. I think you guys can see here. This is just going from 2012 to 2015, the amount of people using these different services. Instant messaging has jumped from being kind of a PC-based thing to now everybody does mobile. Online pay is a huge thing. Like in China, nobody takes cards or cash anymore. Last thing I showed here, I haven't gotten one text message in 2018. That's true. In my phone, I have maybe 5 people's phone numbers. It just, nobody calls, nobody texts. It's all over VoIP, like voice over IP, over WeChat, or QQ, but yeah, now it's WeChat. Here is about mobile pay. This is not a joke. I personally have seen this multiple times, where a beggar comes up and he asks for money, and you don't have cash, and he says, that's fine, and he pulls out a QR code for you to scan so you can pay him over Ali or WeChat. You can see this beggar has both. So it doesn't matter what mobile payment you do, he accepts it. Yeah, it is true. Yeah, I got a confirmation on that. It's first I thought it was a joke, but no, it is very, very true. So these combine the government support with the general speed of change and the attitude and the environment just of growth in China has really melded together to create an environment where VR could go from almost non-existent to market saturation at a speed that I don't think is possible in any other country in the world. And another thing just to add to that is the tech giants, as we know about. Xiaomi, they're releasing the Oculus Go in China, which is really cool because Oculus has been cut out of China since they kind of blacklisted us many years ago, so it's great that they're coming back. Alibaba's doing Buy Plus, which is an online VR shopping portal. They have Taobao and the biggest online platform, shopping platform in the world, maybe? I don't know, but it's big. Tencent, Youku, iQIYI, and a lot of other ones of these big video streaming platforms. They all have VR 360 video players that are in the works. So really, the market is heating up. And to our guests here, the last thing I want to leave you with is some simple ways you can get involved in the Chinese VR dream. First one is sharing your content in China. As there's all these new headsets, these new platforms, I just mentioned the video streaming platforms that are growing. We all know YouTube VR and VER who are here. There's a big market for it, and there are a lot of content creators here. So really, there's a lot of opportunity where your content can reach a growing audience that I believe will be the biggest audience in the future. If possible, if you can localize it, best is dubbing. Subbing also works. If you need help with that, I'm your guy. And any kind of content is cool. Porn is illegal in China, but other than that, I really think there's room for anything. Artistic or more travel-oriented or experimental or sports, really, there's a space for everything. The second thing I want to say is I encourage you guys to work with Chinese companies. We live in a global world right now, and I don't know if you've seen the IVRPA sponsor list. It seems almost half Chinese, and it's just a testament to the fact that Chinese companies are going international and they want to go global. So there's really a lot of opportunity there. I don't know if anybody saw yesterday, Kandao, they had a talk, maybe the day before, and they're working with a Japanese photographer. I forget his name, but yeah, they have an awesome partnership where he's experienced Japanese photographer who's working with them to try out their latest technology as well as their latest cameras. So he gets technology, they get new content, they get testing. What a cool relationship that I think many people in this room could find similar things with Chinese companies. Oh, right there, I'm so sorry. Oh, what's your name again? Nado. Okay, cool. How's the cooperation with Kendall? Going well? Awesome, you hear it right there. So be like Kendall. So yeah, for that, just find a company that interests you, that connects with you. There's a bunch here. If there's any ones that you just kind of, you like the people or you like their product or you just feel something similar with them, I encourage you to chat with them and see if they just want to take a meeting, chat for 10, 15 minutes, see if there's anything that you're doing that mixes with what they're doing, or listen to more of what they're doing and see if there's any way you can support that. It's not easy. Language is becoming less and less of a barrier as Chinese people are learning more English, but it's still one small challenge. Culturally, again, there's a lot of challenges. You're not from the same place, but I would encourage you all to not let the difficulties scare you away. Chinese people are really, really friendly, and they are really open to cooperation, and they're patient. If you guys are all, yeah, if you're open to cooperations, they'll make it work if you can. I want to end with one last thing, a quote from Jessie Lee. "We've paved the boardwalks, and the future belongs to your generation. I believe you will apply this new medium with your artistic traits in a fashionable, pragmatic approach, and it would trans everything that we could imagine." So this, in China, I mentioned that it's the path that China's taken to get where it's gotten now, and it's true. People like Jessie Lee and all this other work that's done in China has built a base where a lot of things are going to happen, and that's for us in the future to take. 谢谢 means thank you, and it's my email address. Email me for a surprise. The surprise is the document that has all the stats and stuff. I guess now it's not a surprise. Change that to email me for a document. Doesn't sound nearly as exciting, but yeah. 谢谢大家. Yeah. Cool. If anybody got some questions, I got 8 minutes, I guess, if I read that right.
Anyone? Oh.
Yes, sorry. So my question is, as content creators, what platform would be best for us to start if we want to start sharing our content on Chinese platforms?
Is it 360 video content or?
Video and photos.
Video and photos, I think it depends because there's a lot of them. And I would kind of say the more the better, if you can kind of cover your bases. To give 2 examples that I think would be really easy ones to get involved with, VER and YouTube VR. They're both here at this exhibit, so you can just go and find them. Talk with them right away. They can tell you how to do an upload, how to share your content, and you can get it done this week before you go back. If you want to go further, send me an email, and I can help you with the rest of the platforms. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, hi, hello.
Hey.
Thank you for this really interesting and very informative talk. My name is Gerda Leopold. I'm a VR content producer, and I heard a lot of stuff about China, and there was some stuff which was not so positive, meaning in the sense that Chinese people, yes, they love content and they love VR content, but they especially love their own content. So how true is that? Are they interested also in stories from outside China, or how does it work?
I would say they definitely are. And though you're true that there are a set of Chinese people who prefer Chinese content, and if you look at film, I think is kind of a decent example. The Chinese box office now, I would say, is maybe 2/3 Chinese films, 1/3 foreign. It's just a random feeling, but it's kind of a mix of both of them. There's so many people in China that almost whatever you're doing, there will be a market for it. Like lately, indie games are really huge in China, like traditional, like 2D games made by small studios. Whereas in the past, it was mainly just kind of the big AAA games. But there's a huge market that there are people interested in everything. And as China becomes more internationalized, there's a desire for international content. And in VR right now, Chinese content creators haven't really stepped up to the plate in the sense that international creators have. They're working really hard and they're trying to make good content, and they definitely will. But at the moment, I think there's a lack of good Chinese content, so there's really a space for that. And going into the future, as the market grows, that space will never leave. Ideally, it should be dubbed into Chinese. Basically, just any kind of localization increases your audience. So if it's not dubbed, that means it's for people who either really, really, really want to see it, or people who speak English.
Anyone else?
Uh-oh, this is a question from a Chinese person. I hope he doesn't. By the way, he is a fraud. He wasn't speaking Mandarin. That was gibberish.
Yes, this is KC. As a content maker, and especially I'm from China, protecting the content is a key issue to the content maker nowadays, especially in China. Because in China, not every company or not every platform, they will pay for the content. It's a special case, digital domain. Ryan White had told me the Tencent, they paid more than $10 million buying all of their license. But most other channels or most other platforms in China, they're just stealing the content from the other countries and try to make a subtitle inside the 360 video. So how can you make sure our content maker can make a living in Chinese platform?
告他们. I said sue them. And I actually do mean that, though I don't think you need to go as far as that. I work with some international companies already helping them in China, and that's been kind of a personal mission of mine, because I feel piracy destroys the opportunity for a healthy ecosystem that will then result in more content and better content. So I've kind of made that my goal. And so far, I've gone to battle with pirates 5 times, and I thought it was going to be really hard, but it was actually really easy. Like one of the companies I represented, there's a Chinese arcade platform that had just got the game off of Steam and just put it right on their platform for free. And their platform users who would watch ads, that's how the platform made money, would then get all this content for free. I messaged really, really easy. Like that happened 5 times, and every single time, sometimes they drag their feet. Like they'll say, like, no, you're not. You need to get another weird document. And they'll like sometimes be really anal about everything that they need. But once I put together all the documents, it's worked. Like they actually back down and they've taken the content down. And in some cases, I've gotten them to replace it with the link to the paid content, which is really cool. But I think the challenge is, the reason why they do it so much is nobody stops them. Because all of these content developers are in the West. Like anybody here, if you saw a Chinese website that had your content, what are you going to do about it? Like it's completely almost untouchable, and they know they're untouchable, so they don't give a crap. They're just going to do it because there's nobody bothering them. And then when somebody does, they're okay, and they back off and they take the content down. So it's a challenge, but you just got to push them, and maybe sue. If it comes to it where somebody doesn't remove it, I'll go to court. And China does not offer protection for pirates. Their signature on all of the international copyright law, they support it, but just when nobody fights it, the government's not going to go and fight them without you. Cool. Thanks for that question. That's good. Actually, I was going to talk about piracy protection, but I completely forgot. I didn't even have it in my PowerPoint. So.
All right. Thank you, Nikk.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. And yeah, any more questions, send me an email. And if you come find me, I have stickers. If you come find me, I'll give you a sticker. Cool. Have a great day, guys.